Gentlelady is recognized to explain her amendment.
Thank you. I thank you very much, Chairman Cole. I rise in support of my amendment, which states that none of the funds made available to the Treasury Department by this bill can be used to prevent the release of financial records. After all, here we are marking up the Financial Services and General Government Appropriations Bill, including suspicious activity reports, SARs, relating to the Epstein-Maxwell case to Congress.
Patriots, let me ask you something. Do you honestly believe Jeffrey Epstein's secrets died with him in that jail cell? Do you believe for 1 second that the story begins and ends with Epstein and Maxwell? Of course not. And after what I just heard in Congress, it's clearer than ever. There's a cover-up happening right in front of us, and the American people are the ones being lied to.
Colleagues, enough is enough. It is past time that we have the full transparency into the financing of the Epstein horrific sex trafficking network. We quite simply need to follow the money. This is something that has already been bipartisan in its support. And I invite through this amendment further bipartisan support. Senator Wyden, for example, for years has been investigating the financing of Epstein's sex trafficking network. And over this past weekend, as part of his committee's investigation, Oversight Chairman James Comer sent a letter to Treasury Secretary Bessent requesting that the department produce certain SARs relevant to his investigation. This information is critical for effective congressional oversight. We need to understand the scope of the operation to secure justice for the victims and to hold those involved accountable. It is our duty, after all, to seek justice and to prevent further harm, as Mr. Hoyer said. You don't traffic 1,000 children over the course of many years and just arrest 2 people. That just simply doesn't happen. There are perpetrators out there who probably have gone on to injure other children and women. We know Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell were not the only criminals in this case. Numerous prominent businessmen were financially connected to Epstein in ways one can only describe as abnormal. We need to know if these transactions raised alarms, and if not, what went wrong, so that we can prevent something like this from ever happening again or happening right now. Additionally, the girls and women, they were criminally assaulted, they were raped, they were trafficked, they were molested, they were groomed. They deserve full honesty, transparency about what happened to them. And they deserve a chance to heal, if possible, and where possible. I commend the victims and the survivors families for their strength in coming forward and coming here. May they lead us out of this dark period. I'm sad to say that I fear my amendment will not gather the positive support from my Republican colleagues. I sincerely hope you will join me on this amendment. Let's get the SARs. Let's not allow for the SARs to be blocked by our own Congress, our own government, by our own acts as appropriators. I want to read a little more of what one of my colleagues here was reading. Today, victims of Jeffrey Epstein gave emotional accounts of sexual abuse on Wednesday here at the Capitol. They spoke at the steps of the U.S. Capitol and called for lawmakers to release more files about the convicted sex offender. One woman, Lisa Phillips, said the group had begun compiling a confidential list of Epstein associates who they say were involved in abuse. Quote, "We will confidentially compile the names we all know were regularly in the Epstein world," end quote. She said it will be done by survivors and for survivors. Let's stand with survivors as members of Congress. Let's stand with them and make sure everyone is treated to justice. And I ask for support for my amendment.
So here's the deal. A congresswoman stood up and introduced an amendment. And she said, plain and simple, the Treasury Department should not be allowed to use taxpayer money to block the release of Epstein's financial records. That means the suspicious activity reports, or SARs, the kind of documents banks file when they see shady transactions, abnormal patterns, money moving around in ways that don't add up. Those reports could blow this whole thing wide open. Now, think about that for a second. We're talking about Epstein's money trail, the parties he threw, the flights on that plane, the island. None of that happened without money moving around. And money leaves a trail. That trail leads to names. Names that are protected. Names the elites in Washington and Wall Street and Hollywood don't want you to ever hear. And here's where the Congresswoman nailed it. You don't traffic hundreds, maybe thousands, of children over decades and only have 2 people arrested. That doesn't happen. It's impossible. Maxwell and Epstein weren't some small-time predators. They were part of a network of elites, rich men, politicians, people who walk the halls of power. And if those records come out, if the money is followed, then that network gets exposed. And guess what? That's exactly why they don't want it happening. Now here's what blows my mind. Survivors are standing on the steps of the Capitol. They are begging Congress. They are saying, we know the names. We're compiling the names. We lived it. And Congress still refuses to act. That should outrage every single American. Survivors are showing more courage than the people elected to represent us. You want to know why? Because too many of those people in Washington are compromised. Too many donors are connected. Too many billionaires have their fingerprints on this. Too many powerful people would fall if the truth came out. That's why you see stall after stall, block after block, excuse after excuse. And here's my take, patriots. If Congress votes against this amendment, if they keep blocking the release of those financial records, then they are not just guilty of inaction, they are guilty of complicity. They are protecting predators. They are shielding traffickers. They are choosing the elites over the people they swore an oath to serve. And we cannot let that stand. This is not a left versus right issue. This is not Republican versus Democrat. This is the American people versus the corrupt elites who think they're untouchable. And let me tell you something. No one is untouchable when the truth finally breaks free. The victims deserve it. The survivors deserve it. Justice demands it. America demands it. We cannot call ourselves a free nation while our own government buries the truth about the most powerful sex trafficking ring in modern history. So, patriots, here's what we need to do. Keep the pressure on. Speak out. Share the truth. Demand transparency. Because if we stay quiet, if we let them sweep this under the rug again, then the swamp wins. And every single one of those victims loses. And before I close, let me say this. I will always stand with the survivors. I will always stand with the American people. And I will never stand with the elites who think they can prey on children, buy their way out of justice, and hide behind their money. Not now, not ever. If you're with me on this, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single time we shine the light on the corruption in Washington and beyond. Stay strong, patriots. The swamp doesn't get the final word. The truth does. And it's coming, whether they like it or not.